It is good to be back. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. I am one of your hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my co-host, Joe DeLeone. It's been a little while. We've had some things going on, but it's good to be back. Joe, how are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. If our viewers are noticing, my lighting is terrible. I am back in my childhood home in New Jersey, trying to get by as much as I can. It feels weird being on East Coast time. I have to admit, being at the complete end of the day. I'm used to
because it's a 3-hour difference from LA to the West to East Coast, right?
Yeah, but the other part that's weird of this is now I'm ahead of you. Yeah, I'm ahead of you. Like normally it's earlier in the day. Now I'm past you in the day. I've already worked the whole day. I've got it through everything, but it's weird. I like being home though. I don't know if you've ever made it this way before.
I've never really been to the Northeast like that. So really? I don't know. I was going to make a Southern joke, but you wouldn't get it, so you wouldn't laugh, so it wouldn't hit the way that it needs to. The furthest north I've been is Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't know geography well enough to laugh at that.
Okay. The furthest north I've been is Missouri.
Are you actually serious about that, or are you just trying to crack a joke?
Actually, no, not really. The furthest north I've ever been in my entire life was actually Alaska, believe it or not. The tip of Alaska.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count, though.
How not?
Well, I'm saying for like the northern.
I mean, I'm a polar bear's ass shaking away from being to Santa Claus's house. I mean, that's how close.
Geographically, obviously, that's more north. My point is being in the northern part of the U.S. that doesn't really.
It's the U.S.
Yeah, but it's right. You're basically in Russia at that point. That's Canada.
I know.
Like super Canada.
Well, I'm going to be. Look, all I know was I was a polar bear's asshole away from being. Look. one more jingle bell and Santa Claus was coming. Okay,
fair.
And listen, we flew to Japan. Okay, and this lady had bells, like you know how bells like on her sweater. Okay, and the plane was cold. I'm talking about the captain came up and said, "Listen. Don't touch the windows. It's like below 30 degrees, where how far we're up. Don't touch the windows. It's extremely cold. Just be calm." And this lady, she was watching a movie and she was moving and her bells was jingling. And I'm like, I'm not going to say if I was or was not a little bit under the influence, but regardless, I turned around and said, "Here comes Santa Claus." Right down Santa Claus Lane. And I mean, Joe, we're in June. This lady was wearing a wool sweater when we went to Japan. So nevertheless, it's always good. But we did have a lot of news since we came back. Also, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
You can clip this.
Okay.
3 weeks ago on this show, I came out and said that the talks about Colorado and the Big 12 were going to heat up. Boy, it's funny what happens. So let me tell you what I know that's going on. It is being reported now, and I did tell you on the show that I did believe that 2 basketball mid-majors were going to be involved in this. I don't know if Gonzaga is going to be one of those ones going into the Big 12. I do think it's going to be UConn. I do think UConn makes a lot of sense to the Big 12 for basketball reasons, but geographically it does not. They have talked about, and I can confirm through a source in the Big 12 office, that they have had serious conversations with UConn. Here's the problem. They only want UConn for basketball.
Right.
And I don't think that they're going to do that. But remember 3 weeks ago on this show, on this platform, I came out and said, listen, and look, even in the comments, and Colorado people were coming into our DMs, coming into our comments saying, what's this guy from Louisiana know? Well, just want to let you know, the Big 12 office, speaking of jingle bells coming, is literally a stone's throw away from where we're at. Bottom line,
where is it? Where is the Big 12 office?
It's in Texas. I think I don't remember. I mean, I'm being facetious, but I know it's in Texas.
But it's close.
Well, let me just give you an example. A third of their office, at least I know of probably 7 or 8 people that are from the great state of Louisiana that work in that office. So, okay, regardless of that, the Big Ten, you can clip the Louisiana part. Let's not burn the sources. But the bottom line is the Big 12 is going in that. So we'll monitor that, and I'll let everybody know as we go on. But that's not what we're here for. The big SEC is going to be talking or confirm the 8-game schedule. Joe, I don't understand that the hate for the 8-game schedule. Now I know that you might be on the opposite side of this, but it's not created equal. We'll talk about that here today in the 8 and 9 game schedule in football with the SEC. Also, Hall of Fame ballots have come out. Michael Vick does not deserve to be on there, not because of dogfighting. I just don't know if statistically he is good enough to be on there. And then Marshawn Lynch.
That one was odd. I don't know about the Michael Vick one though. He finished.
Did you know the last year that
in the Heisman voting?
Well, didn't you know that Michael Vick, the last year that he played at Virginia Tech, only threw for like 1,500 yards?
I didn't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, and by the way, he had like 8 passing touchdowns and like 5 INTs. You know who he is?
Who?
Anthony Richardson.
Oh, stop it. Stop. No, we're not. Come on. We can't compare the two of them. That's Michael Vick was
from a statistical standpoint.
But in terms of talent, they're two completely different players.
Yeah, you're
right. Michael Vick was
Mike Vick's 20,000 times better than he is.
Michael Vick was very dominant for part of his college career. Not all of it, as you're saying.
1,500 yards passing. You're right. He was dominant. Hey, how about
he finished? What was it? He finished in the Heisman voting, though. That requires some level of dominance. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in this conversation.
Irving, Texas is where it's at, by the way. I just looked it up. Okay. What happens when you have a conference that has more passing touchdowns in their first game of a regular season? Meaning every quarterback that was in the SEC last year, okay, 14 teams, they had more passing touchdowns in week 1 than what Mike Vick had in his entire career. And then, Joe, you do have to bring the off the field issues into this. So we'll talk about that as well.
We'll get into it.
Chris Marshall out at Ole Miss. I think it's Chris Marshall, right? It was Chris Marshall from Texas A&M. I'm off today.
I believe so, but I was more caught up on the Zakhari Franklin news.
Okay, nevertheless,
I'll check the Chris Marshall.
Wide receiver leaves Ole Miss. They add a new one. So, look, Chris Marshall, if I'm not mistaken, was a former high 4-star, low 5-star type of wide receiver, leaves A&M, then goes to Ole Miss through the transfer portal. I'm going to call out Lane Kiffin here tonight. I'm calling out Lane Kiffin. He's in SEC media days, or not SEC, spring meetings last week saying, calling Jimbo Fisher a clown. Meanwhile, you're going in the portal and grabbing guys too. Right. From lower divisions. You freaking hypocrite.
It was Chris Marshall.
By the way, when it was Chris Marshall. Okay, thank you. By the way, let me tell you something about Lane Kiffin. When he goes to the tanning bed, you know how those little things you put on your eyes? He puts it on his nipples. That's the guy that Lane Kiffin is.
What? I thought we were supporters of Lane Kiffin. Why are we?
But don't be a hypocrite. Don't go in there and calling Jimbo Fisher a clown when you're out here doing the same thing. So he's like, these bigger programs are taking players from us. Meanwhile, you're doing the same thing to UTSA.
I'm almost to the point now where I can't go as far as to call every single coach a hypocrite, because they're all hypocrites. They all say one thing and then do the same exact thing.
Yeah, he's a hypocrite.
Inconsistent.
Let's just call it what it is. He's a hypocrite.
Yes.
It's okay to call him a hypocrite when it warrants it. All right.
Yes.
So we got a lot to get in here tonight, Joe. We'll be back tomorrow as well. So we got a lot of things happening. Then back Saturday. Are you
we'll discuss off air. We have to converse off air on scheduling.
Oh, what you doing Saturday?
I just might be a little busy.
It's your birthday.
It is my birthday coming up. So
you're gonna go get you a big booty hoe.
You trying to get me in trouble? You
got a girlfriend.
You trying to get me in trouble?
How do you have a girlfriend and it's not Facebook official?
Because I'm not 35. I'm not 35.
Excuse me,
sir.
I
don't put my relationship status on Facebook. I also don't even post on Instagram. So it's just not a part of my.
Okay, well, first off, don't you ever make fun of 35-year-olds again. Okay, that's number one.
I'm making fun of people who use, who update their relationship status on Facebook. That's what I'm making fun of.
My wife's gonna kill you. Megan's gonna kill you.
Well, you're getting me in trouble with my girlfriend who listens to the beginning of the show usually, and then
well, in fairness, I forgot you had a girlfriend. Okay.
I'm gonna get asked, are you going to a strip club on Saturday? That's what's gonna be asked of me now.
I hope you're happy. You're gonna be slapping some booties left and right. Pow 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 pow. You ready to get to a break? You want to get out?
Yeah, I'm ready to get back to
it. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot to discuss. We're back next.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
We're back. Let's get this thing rolling. It's about to get live in here, and I'm not talking about golf. By the way, my God.
Oh, my God, the news.
Oh, my God, dude. Like, bro, so after this, obviously, we do the AY. I am going off. Okay? Like,
as you should.
And listen, I don't care about golf. I mean, I like golf. I watch it. I like watching it every now and then, but I'm not like those, oh, my name is Scott and I like golf. Like, that's not me, like I'm not one of those kind of people. But what Live Golf and the PGA are doing, oh my God.
Well, the funniest part about this is it's the equivalent of like if the Sun Belt bought the SEC. Like, that's what the equivalent of this is.
Well, I think it's the opposite, because let's call it what it is now. The Saudis got money. I mean, money. The PGA ain't got money like the Saudis.
No.
By the way, the guy that's like backing this is, some people believe because of oil money and stuff like that. Like, they believe he's a trillionaire. They think that it's not Elon, that he's the biggest, money tycoon. It's not Elon. So that's just crazy. The world revolves around money, and it's just crazy. But you know what else revolves around money? The SEC. Listen, I came out here, and I think I do feel like there are two people in the world that are taking on this stance. It's me and my buddy Josh Pate. Okay, let me throw out a scenario to you. So the SEC is going to be keeping the eight game conference schedule, right? That's what they agreed upon. Joe, if you're an 8-1 team and you're Tennessee, let's just give an example, Tennessee, and you have a playoff berth on the line. Okay. And if you're Tennessee, you have to face Georgia, UT, Martin, and Chattanooga State. What versus you being in the Big Ten and you got to face Northwestern, Nebraska, and let's just hypothetically throw in Michigan. What schedule would you take?
Because take the Big Ten one.
You take the Big Ten one. It's not created equally. When you have LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and I will even throw them in this, Florida when they're up, it's never created equally. Joe, you laughed at me and got mad at me when I said the following things. There's no business that the Pac-12 champion should lose to a 6-6 Florida. This is my point. This has always been my point. When you have a P5 champion losing to a lower tier SEC team, do you understand how difficult it is for me or any coach that really wants to back this? Now, as a fan, let me say this. I want to see more competitive games. I don't want to see like LSU or Alabama or Tennessee or Georgia face UT Chattanooga. I don't want to see that. But I understand it. And truthfully, until the Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-12, and ACC can religiously put out national champions, what are you doing? We play more conference games than you. And would Georgia have playing more conference games? Would that have mattered against TCU? Newsflash, it wouldn't have.
No,
it wouldn't have. There have been 5 SEC teams since 2000 that have won national titles. All 5 of those teams have either won another one or have gotten back to a national title. You have Auburn, Alabama, Florida, LSU, and Georgia all in that footprint. Everybody else not in the Southeast, including Clemson in that. The only other team to remotely do anything worth a damn is Ohio State. So it's difficult for me, Joe, to come on this platform and to come on this show and say the following. Let's have another conference game. Let me tell you the truth. Greg Sankey don't want another conference game because if he did, it would be over with. That's my opinion.
So, Blake, as this whole thing unraveled, my thoughts on it it's changed drastically. It has dramatically changed because if those who tuned in when we first opened this debate, when there was the vote that was going to occur, my stance was let's get more games. I want more competitive games. As an enjoyer of football, as somebody in the business of sports, I want more competitive football games
and
on
I'm
a
with
week-to-week basis.
Just so we're on clear, I'm with you on that, but continue.
And I would even put it to the point where I want it to be as close to the NFL product as possible, where you could have a team that's in last place that could surprise a top team in the NFL. You can't get. It is so rare for Austin Peay to show up and beat Alabama. That's just not going to happen.
There's no Austin Peay in the NFL,
right? Because you're limiting the interactions with
going to the Super Bowl.
It's the equivalent as if a USFL team showed up to play the Chiefs when Austin Peay has to play against Alabama. You don't even have those interactions. Those interactions don't even occur. So I would love to have 9 games just from an enjoyer of good competitive football. More games is good for the sport. But as I've seen this whole thing unravel, I totally understand why it's not good for the SEC for 2 reasons. And Sankey had this quote saying for this first aspect that, money follows, it doesn't lead. I'm kind of paraphrasing there. They weren't going to get the money right away for that 9th game. So it doesn't really behoove them to add that 9th game. But to the bigger point that you're bringing up now is that why would teams schedule with this new expanded playoff more difficult games when it could detrimentally impact them from making it into the playoff? Because you know what? The committee is going to pick a 2-loss Penn State team that gets blasted by Ohio State and Michigan over a 4-loss SEC team. It is inevitably going to happen.
No question.
If that comes down that road.
No question.
So avoid that, get more easy games on the schedule.
And it would be like what we saw a couple years ago. You have a 9-3 Kentucky going up against a 10-2-ish Penn State team. Yes. Kentucky takes them down handily with opt-outs. Oh, well, Blake, it's the bowl season. Okay. Okay. Cool. Here's the thing for me, though, Joe. Why is the SEC dominating in these week 1 matchups, these neutral site matchups? So historically, when you have LSU versus Oregon, and I know LSU lost to Florida State last year, but again, it's still a Southern team that has had national implications a lot of times before. When you have Georgia taking on Notre Dame and Clemson in the non-conference, and you're out here trying to tell me, oh, well, they don't play a tougher schedule than me. The hell that they don't. Name a team that Ohio State, outside of like Notre Dame, okay, in their little bit of a footprint. Has Ohio State ever gone? They went to Oklahoma, and remember Baker Mayfield put the flag in the middle. And it's the reason why they don't do it anymore. Why didn't Ohio State ever schedule in Georgia? Now, they scheduled LSU, but they scheduled LSU in like 2037. 2037. Okay, well, that doesn't really mean that game's not getting played anymore. USC has gone out and played Alabama. They don't care. They'll take on the risk, and I applaud them for that. UCLA has done it.
And as much as you crap on Notre Dame on this program, Notre Dame has actively gone out to compete with SEC
Well, they kind of have to. They don't have a baseline conference. So,
yes,
I'm throwing Notre Dame out of it. But even though I agree with you,
okay,
they obviously, they're an independent team. They have to go and play Power 5 opponents. I mean, it's okay. let's not forget that they played Marshall and got beat. Okay, just throwing that out there.
Okay, that was one season. Stop. That doesn't equate to
well,
this. That doesn't equate to this.
Well, here's the truth. Until September, I have until September to continue to bring up that argument.
All right,
okay?
fine.
All right, sounds
that's
good.
Fair. That's fair.
Bottom line, though, is if I'm Kentucky and I'm 9-3 and have a potential to get into the playoff, why would I want to play? So if I'm Kentucky, I already more than likely have to play Tennessee, Georgia, okay? If I have to add another conference game, why would I want to play LSU, Texas, or Oklahoma? Why would I want to play Texas A&M? It doesn't behoove me. And by the way, you're not getting paid for that 9th game, but here's what people forget. You do get paid to make the playoff and a crap load of money. So when all is said and done and all this, this is the argument that I hate the most, is everybody's like, oh, we want it to be equal. You literally play a sport which ultimately decides if you are equals or not. You're playing an athletic sport, a competitive sport, and why everybody loves competitive sports is because not everybody walks out there with a trophy. Joe, I would rather, and this is what pissed me off. In 2003, LSU and USC had a split before Reggie Bush started cheating with Ed Orgeron. I don't like this split national championship thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. Why does everybody deserve a participation trophy? They don't. They don't. So you can rip on me, and I told you this in the playoff last year. You were like, a 2-loss team has no business getting in the playoff. Okay, well, are we sure about that? Because if it's about the best product, what you're saying, if you're a 9-game conference truther and you're saying it's about the product, then you should be screaming at the rafters for last year Tennessee and Alabama not getting in the playoff over TCU. Because those two teams have bigger business, they have a bigger outreach. And by the way, let's call it what it is. They are the better teams. They are the better teams. Clemson's a better team than TCU last year. You know it with DJU.
Yes.
They're just better teams. Here's another truth that you're not going to like. Well, you might actually like this one.
Okay.
Even if you throw a 9-3, 10-3 Notre Dame in there, Notre Dame's still going to be a 4-point favorite over TCU. You know that, right? It's not created equally.
But, okay, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, though, that we tend to do, which is debating.
Well, that's why everybody's been
playoff.
subscribing, because we go down the rabbit holes that everybody wants to go down. Call me the fox, because I love rabbit holes.
The 4-team playoff
even
format,
though you love glory holes.
Oh, oh my God. I almost made a really offhanded comment. I stopped myself. Good thing I did not make it. I'll tell you what it was after. But
okay.
Blake, the 4-team playoff, though, is now irrelevant. And I almost want to pay more attention to what does this mean for the 12-team? But it's relevant for one more year.
No, but my whole argument is you're right. It doesn't matter. My whole argument is if that is what you're standing on, better games, then you should be screaming for Alabama to be in the playoff.
Well, here's one thing that I actually, and a thought that I had that you brought up, where you're saying that many observers and those that are discussing with the new playoff is, how can we make it fair? It needs to be fair. I would argue with the playoff, if you want teams in your conference to compete, there should be some type of regulation that requires you to play a certain number of teams in other conferences at the Power 5 level. I don't know what that looks like, but
play one. You can.
If more Big Ten teams played SEC teams, I think that this argument would be a lot different if the Big Ten was beating some of these SEC teams. I think it would be a lot, and it would improve the quality of the Big Ten teams.
You know what the SEC would do?
What?
They would go to 9 conference games.
Because they don't want that. They don't want that. That's the thing.
Correct. Here's the truth, and what nobody will tell you. You know why they went to 9 conference games?
Why?
They said it was because of the rivalry. No, it wasn't. It's because if you remember at the end of the year, their teams, remember when Oklahoma State had a loss and Alabama got into the national championship before they did. Their strength of schedule sucked. So they were like, okay, well, what if we add another conference game? So all these all these conferences started adding conference games, and it boosted their strength of schedule instead of playing, Tennessee Tech or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's why they went to it. But Joe, here's the ultimate bottom line thing for me. You can't complain if you're the Big 10, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12 when you're losing. When the king is on top, you don't get to say what the king does. And so let me ask you this: why is there nobody from the Big 10, coaches wise, Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, ACC? Why is Nick Saban going up to Washington D.C. today and lobbying on NIL? Because they're sending the king. Okay, yes. They're sending the man. So my whole point in all of this is, you've had chances to knock off the SEC. You didn't do it. Michigan State couldn't do it. Washington couldn't do it. USC couldn't do it. Michigan couldn't do it. Ohio State couldn't do it. Nobody can do it. And I know that it sucks for 2/3 of the country. I get it. And I want those teams to be good. It makes for a better football. The bottom line is you're not better than them. And you haven't been since 2000. Maybe some teams here and there with Ohio State. But, Joe, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. If this were the NBA, if this were the NFL, and one division constantly won, aka AFC, aka the Patriots, wouldn't you start having some issues with what they're doing?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. All of a sudden, everything Travis Kelce does, oh, look at him doing this to President Biden. How dare he do that? Well, President Biden doesn't even know where he's at. So, right. Come on. I mean, he didn't even understand what happened. So, I just, for me, do I care if you go to 9 conference games? Hell no, I don't. But don't you dare act like it's equal, because you know what's going to happen, and I'll wrap this up here. You know what's going to happen, Joe? The SEC is going to go to 9 conference games. And when the playoff committee comes out and 10-2 Penn State doesn't get in over 9-3 Alabama, you're going to know why. You're going to know why. Because you don't play in – you playing Florida is a bigger matchup than you playing Northwestern. Joe, Northwestern was the second worst team in the country last year. I would have loved to play them. And you can't say Vandy anymore because Vandy got Clark Lee and they're doing some decent things.
Yeah. My final thought on this, though, Blake, is for the teams that do complain outside of the SEC that, one, that they're not adding this 9th game and they're not following suit with the other conferences. And again, that they're complaining it's not fair, the recognition that the SEC gets, all that. I implore them to schedule more SEC opponents. Schedule more SEC opponents. Prove yourself. Beat them. Go out and play. Doesn't even need to be Georgia. Beat Mississippi State. Beat Ole Miss.
Arkansas.
Beat Arkansas. The argument will be a lot weaker when we have these conversations about who deserves to get in the playoff when you're doing that more consistently. Now, I forget which head coach it was that brought up a lot of these other conferences are not really excited or willing to schedule SEC teams. But if they're going to sit and complain, they need to be willing to compete during the regular season as well as the postseason.
Yeah, and look, listen, I like I mentioned, and I don't want this to go unnoticed. If they go to 9 conference games, I'm all for it. Like I personally, I want more football. Like it doesn't matter to me if we play Southeastern Louisiana from an LSU perspective. Or if you play I can't say Ole Miss, but who's it? You know what a team I'd like to play? Actually get to play once in a while? I would love to go out to Columbia and play. I mean,
just play Missouri.
I would love to go. Look, LSU, because of a hurricane, had to go to Como. It was the first time. They've been in here 12 years. First time they went to Como. It's never happened. It will happen this year. That can't happen. Okay, and I understand that, but at the same time, in the same token, it frustrates me when you have these 9-game truthers saying, "Oh, you're messing up." And Greg, here's the biggest lie. You ready? Everybody comes on here and says, "Oh, well, Greg Sankey tanked." No, it's not Greg Sankey's decision. Greg Sankey cannot sway that room. And you know what the truth is? Greg Sankey probably wants 8 games. Okay. And
I thought he wants 9, though. I thought he said that he wants 9. You saying you don't believe that?
I don't fucking buy that. Oops, sorry for the language, but I just don't.
You said glory hole. You can't say I'm sorry for saying the F word.
Well, glory hole can actually be said through FCC regulations.
Never mind.
So anyway, all right. Let's do this. Let's transition. So the College Football Hall of Fame came out with their list of people. We're not going to run through every single one of them. I think Joe said that what was like 100 of them.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Big names. So what's it like? Randy Moss, Marshawn Lynch,
Larry
Fitzgerald. Which, by the way, first ballot, no questions. By the way, think about this. And Michael Vick. Think about this. You want to hear something crazy? Larry Fitzgerald has more receiving touchdowns in one season than Michael Vick has any touchdowns in any season combined.
Man, you hate Michael Vick. What?
No, I love Michael Vick. I love Michael Vick.
Okay.
Here's the problem with that. There's tiers to this. I don't think Mike Vick's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Did he change the game? Yeah, maybe you can say that. But with the off the field stuff, with the dogs, and with, and look, he paid his price. So let me say this. I don't even want to put the dog thing in there because he paid his price. He went to jail for it. But whenever everybody started debating about this on Twitter, and it's like, does Michael Vick really belong in there? And I'm like, what the hell? And then I started seeing the statistics on him. I'm like, bro, my guy wasn't like we thought he was. We just saw the highlights.
But the thing with a guy like Michael Vick is it's the moments. It's what he did for a football program in Virginia Tech that at the time, he was a big reason why they had so much success in the early 2000s. He kickstarted that, in my opinion. But the big thing you just mentioned there, separate from him being in the Heisman voting during one of his seasons, he changed the game. How many guys before him were doing what he did? Maybe Randall Cunningham, but that was at UNLV, and it wasn't on the same national landscape. I think that the way that he has revolutionized football for the way that he played football is so significant for the history of it. Because now every team has a guy like Michael Vick. Every kid growing up that was a receiver or a running back played quarterback in high school and then went on to play quarterback in college and had amazing careers. Jaden Daniels wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for Michael Vick.
I don't know about that.
Is that a step too far?
That's a step too far. Well, because here's the thing. Were quarterbacks not running the football? I mean,
they were, but to be able to do both things proficiently and effectively and dominantly.
I would say like a Lamar Jackson, maybe, but it was Lamar Jackson still fell. Michael Vick, this experiment has gone on for a long time. And here's the truth. You ready for the truth? Name a prolific running quarterback that's won a natty. I mean, not a natty, won a Super Bowl.
That's a good point.
Okay, so when you're talking about changing the game,
a college game more than
a college game, and but I'm talking about we're talking about him changing the game, like these guys coming into college and going into the NFL, right? Because if it's based off statistics alone, Mike Vick doesn't get in.
Also, Russell Wilson.
I don't know. Russ sat in the pocket, dude.
But he ran though. He ran a lot early on in his career.
You know what? My counter argument, Steve Young.
And that was pre Michael Vick.
That was pre-Michael Vick. So let's not act like there weren't dudes out there. What? I mean, how many times were we kids?
But not on the level. Okay.
Would Chris Berman be like, what? And it would be a small little white dude named Danny Amendola.
Michael Vick, though, no one was running a 4.3 or whatever he was runing at the quarterback position and evading people and having those long rushing touchdowns and just the dynamic plays on a game-to-game basis with his legs, and then also being able to throw it at a high level. There's not been that many guys in their careers. Just haven't, especially the college level.
Look, I'm going to say Michael Vick deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. I don't know if he's first ballot.
I'll concede that. I'm not going to sit here and debate that far.
Because listen, Your boy used to trade from Michael Vick to the Saints every single year on Madden. I used to turn forced trades off or on so that they would be forced to trade to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I used to be a Michael Vick apologist. I still kind of am. NFL Michael Vick. Look, he paid his time. What he did was completely inhumane. I just don't think that he deserves to be in there over Randy Moss because there's only like a limited amount of guys that can go in at once.
There are. I don't know what the exact number is.
So let me just throw this out there. If it's between Larry Fitzgerald, who else is in here? Let me pull this up.
It was Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald.
It was Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald.
Terrell Suggs, I believe, was on that list as well.
Terrell Suggs is also on that list. Larry Fitzgerald was also a Heisman finalist too. And again, he changed the game. Yeah, okay. But then how many other people have changed the game? Are you going to put in so many people that have quote unquote changed the game? And what is quote unquote changing the game? So let me ask you this question.
He created a whole new style of quarterback, though. I don't like. There's nobody. How often do we have somebody that can?
Did the times? Well, I understand that. And I can't defend that point. But let me ask you this question from Michael Vick point of view. Does the incident that he had with the dogs, does that go into this?
I don't think so because
let me ask you this. Let me ask you a different way. Does character go into this? When you go into the Hall of Fame, is character a thing that you should judge?
I think that our evaluation of character is important for the timeline of them in what they did. So for Michael Vick's case, as you said, he did his time. He did everything that he could after the fact.
O.J. Simpson be in there?
No, that's and I don't know, like going down that rabbit hole is deep, is very deep, but it's a complicated conversation.
Deep, like Ray J and Kim Kardashian deeper.
But to the point of 10 years ago, we would argue that Reggie Bush had poor character, but now it means nothing what happened to him. Nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Crying, dude.
I can't believe you just said that comment.
Oh God.
That made me think of Reggie Bush. I hope you're happy that made me think of Reggie Bush.
Yeah, I mean, but see, here's the thing. Here's the question that I would have. Would you put in? I know that you would, but they haven't even given Reggie his Heisman back.
They should give him his Heisman back. By the way,
I agree with you.
There's this massive billboard that's right by my apartment in LA that they put up a month ago. And
give him his Heisman back?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They should give him his Heisman back. And I don't know what's taking them so long.
Well, he did cheat.
Okay, but then take Bryce Young's Heisman. He was in a Dr. Pepper ad.
Yeah, but he didn't break any rules at his time.
But those rules don't mean anything now, though. It's not like the rule that was broken was like.
Let me ask you a question. So, should Al Capone have ever been arrested for prohibition? Just answer the question, yes or no. Should Al Capone have been arrested for prohibition?
No, he was arrested for tax evasion, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but they went after him for what?
For prohibition. Okay.
It wasn't right then.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and I agree with you. Times can change. But Mike Vick, for what it's worth, I don't know how you feel about animals, but let me just tell you something in this household, buddy. Mike Vick is not welcome. Okay.
Okay.
So, because I mean, look, this is the tiers of where I fall in my own family. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ben and Jewel, dogs, me. In reference to tiers, okay? So my wife loves her dog more than she loves me.
I understand that. And I think that, again,
could you imagine the little dachshund named Fendi fighting in Mike Vick's backyard?
I don't think those were the dogs that he was going after. You think if he was dachshund fighting, I don't think any of them would have.
If Mike Vick could fight turtles, he'd do it.
Probably.
Look, you ever seen a turtle fight?
I have not seen a turtle fight.
Well, let me tell you something.
Have you seen a turtle fight?
Yeah, well, so listen, before YouTube was a thing, they used to have a website called God, I can't even remember the website.
Turtlefights.com.
No. But this guy spray painted a turtle's shell red and another one blue and called one Donatello or Leonardo and Raphael and tried to make them fight. And they would they would do it.
Yeah, were they actually doing anything or were they just bonking each other? This is not a real fight.
They were like biting each other. Okay. so nuts. But yes or no from you, Mike Vick in?
I think that the character issue thing is such a complicated matter. If I'm doing it based on performance, yes, eventually I think he gets in.
As you said earlier, I would concede that. I just don't think he's the first ballot. The only first ballot I really see on here are two dudes, Randy Moss and Larry Fitzgerald. For me.
For the fact that Randy Moss was a Heisman finalist as an FCS player and for what he did, right. Absolutely. There are right. So few guys that can accomplish that and be so dominant that you're recognized.
Was it him and Steve McNair? Weren't they the only two?
Wasn't Chad Pennington also? No, there have been other FCS players that have been.
I don't know about Chad Pennington.
Maybe he was in the top 10 and he just wasn't at the ceremony. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
Maybe so. So are you trying to tell me Lindsey Scott should have been a Heisman finalist?
He should not have been. I think Trey Lance should have been a Heisman finalist.
He had 15 touchdowns in his entire career. Stop.
He had more than 15 touchdowns and he had no turnovers. And he led his team to a perfect season. As a redshirt freshman.
Have you seen Trey Lance's hairline?
Yeah, it's bad. He needs to just shave it all off.
Bro, like if he were to go in the Army right now, where would he salute? Like
that's a tough scene, man. He's younger than me, and you're losing your hair that bad. That's
bro. That like you gotta let that thing go, brother. You gotta let that thing go.
I don't know. Once you start getting a little bit of a little worry that the hairline's moving back, you're gonna fight tooth and nail for that thing to stick around. He's got enough money to get his hair fixed. I don't know why he doesn't just do that. Get some plugs in, man. Get ahead of it now.
I guess. I mean, that's so awful. Like, all right, I'm going to tell you a story. Quick story. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I've told you, I mean, you know my background. You know a lot of the guys in the NFL that I talk to. I mean, look, the world that I run in a lot of time is scouts. I see them everywhere. I mean, if you work a beat and you've played football, the chance or baseball or whatever sport, the chances of those guys like evaluating you are really high. You know that there are GMs in the NFL that legitimately, if a guy has like a low T count, that they will legitimately not draft him.
How do they measure their T count?
Well, they do the physicals, right? Like when you go and you do the physicals,
the combine physical,
the combine physicals, and they get blood work. I mean, like.
Oh my God!
Think about it like this. I know of a GM right now who when that Trey Lance draft, and I talked about this on my show when that draft came out, he said that he wasn't going to draft Trey Lance because of his low T count.
That's insane.
Bro. That's insane.
Well, I mean, that's not even going to work in the next 5 years because T counts are going down in men. It's just gradually not 5 years, but maybe like 15 years. That number goes down every year.
Oh man, I got more testosterone than a full bore.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the
I'm a man. I drink Miller Lite. I eat steaks. You know?
That number is going to keep going down, so there's not going to be much.
I don't believe that
validity to that.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You don't see the 4-year-old that I deal with every day. Yeah,
you think that he's
that dude is one Snickers bar away to being just a testosterone tube.
Ben's a grown ass man.
Dude, bro, like this, bro. He legitimately like picked up our couch a little.
That's awesome. I don't know why, but I love hearing stories.
I'm like, God damn, Hercules, put it down.
He's going to be like 6. I'm telling you, he's going to be a great tight end. He's going to be like 6'8". He's going to be
God, please, Jesus. Well, let me tell you something. Brian Kelly's got a lot of issues right now with Ben Ruffino.
Wait, what? Why?
Because my man is in love, LOVE, love with baseball.
Oh, you're saying that.
Dude,
that doesn't last though. I loved baseball when I was younger. I didn't even end up playing it in high school.
No, I'm telling you, it's in his blood, dude. It's in his blood.
Wait until he starts hitting people. It's going to change really quick.
It's going to change really quick, dude. Yeah, that's true. All right. Let's transition here. Okay, so let me start off by saying this before we start wrapping this thing up. I want to be cautious because I don't want to go full all in on Lane Kiffin, but I kind of do. At the SEC spring meetings and even before then, Lane Kiffin had constantly and has been constantly taking shots at Jimbo Fisher, right? Like we know that. Like that's just continuously been happening. But I have a problem with that. And let me tell you why. How is it that he keeps complaining about NIL and Texas A&M's #1 overall class? So many years. We're almost through 2 whole cycles now. But he doesn't say anything about Nick Saban in reference to him using NIL to get the #1 and best overall by star recruiting classes. That he had more 5 stars in this recruiting class than he's had in any class beforehand. But yet he complains, well, these bigger schools are having these NILs and collectives and they're paying kids. Okay, I will just concede that for just a moment. What's the difference in you paying a new wide receiver after Chris Marshall left? And by the way, you went and got Chris Marshall from Texas A&M, which was one of those guys that was allegedly getting paid. You went and got him. Just so happened he was a bad egg and he's out of football at the current moment. But you go and get Zakhari Franklin from UTSA, right? It was UTSA.
Yes.
What? I mean, and the Franklin kid, we were looking at the film the other day. The kid can play, right? And so,
look, we'll get into Franklin's impact in a second. I'm on the same page as you. I have always been a Lane Kiffin supporter. I've supported him on this program, and I think that they're going to do great things this year. But the hypocrisy, it's unlike any other conference. We don't get this from Pac-12 teams. We don't get this from Big Ten teams. Why are we always doing this? Why are the head coaches always taking shots at one another and then going and doing the thing that they're complaining about? It's redundant. It's ridiculous. It's like we're watching the Desperate Housewives of Atlanta. It's a reality show.
Watching the Desperate Housewife, not wives, but wife of Oxford.
But a different person takes a different shot. There's a different headline of someone taking a shot every single week. And once the season starts, it'll be almost daily. I mean, this is why we tune into the SEC, though, is that there is so much bad blood amongst these programs that they don't care. These coaches, some of them hate each other, and they will say whatever they want because they don't care. It makes them more entertaining, but it is very hypocritical.
Well, I'm not coming out here trying to defend Jimbo Fisher, but you've literally had Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin. Both have come out and continuously not Saban, but you literally had Kiffin, somebody that's close with Nick Saban, come out here multiple times. You know who you don't hear? Here's the thing that just baffles me. Yeah. You know who you don't hear from? Kirby Smart.
Jimbo?
Kirby ain't saying a damn thing. The only shot that Kirby's taken is when he went about Josh Heupel and the Tennessee quarterback thing. Look, this is how I view my quarterbacks. That's it. He talked about on the field. He talked about Tennessee. He didn't talk about NIL. He didn't say Josh Heupel sucks. He didn't say, a Hendon Hooker stunk. Like he didn't do that. He went on the field. The coaches that are succeeding in recruiting with NIL and have a good structure in place, besides Nick Saban, is Brian Kelly saying anything?
No, he's not. He's not.
But you have teams like let me ask you this question. When's the last time you heard from Riley at USC? When's the last time you heard from Lincoln talking about NIL?
It's been quiet. Well, because he's not getting out-competed by anybody out there. He's the one who's dominating the West Coast.
Well, no, not necessarily. Oregon's recruiting class. I mean, Dan Lanning.
Yes, but they don't take shots at one another. And
and you know what? because Lincoln Riley and Dan Lanning both know the same thing. Listen, we're doing the same shit that Kelly, Smart, Saban, and Kiffin are all doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to brass tacks here for me, Lane Kiffin is a hypocrite if he's going to continue to take shots at Jimbo Fisher and then he's taking wide receivers from smaller schools. You hypocrite. You outright hypocrite. But I don't expect anything less from him. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything less from him. Kentucky's bitching and moaning. Mississippi State's bitching and moaning. Vanderbilt, they're so far into their books and studies, they don't even care at this point. So
to speak on Franklin, though, Blake, I don't know if this edition is as sexy as it looks.
Let me tell you something though, very quickly.
Okay.
If Lane Kiffin is going after a skill player, I ain't judging it. There are certain people at certain positions, that when they coach, buddy, when it comes to defensive line, are you going to say anything to Kirby Smart and Nick Saban? When it comes to offensive line, are you going to say anything about Brian Kelly?
No.
When it comes to skill positions, I look at Zakhari Franklin in a completely different light than I did a month ago.
Well, look, I'll go as far as to say I'm not afraid to make a comment about Lane Kiffin's addition. I think this is an 800-yard receiver in the SEC. I don't think that he's going to be the same level of dominant that he was in
That's
Conference
a lot
USA.
of yards in the SEC, Joe. We only had 2 wide receivers that had 1,000 yards last year.
Fair point, but maybe 800 is a bit generous. I don't think the guy's dominant in any category. I think he's a really good G5 wide receiver. He doesn't separate. He's really lean. He's only like 185. He's probably close to 175 the way that he looks on film. I don't see a dominant football player, and he was playing in an offense that advantageously set up the receivers in the offense. Yes, he's stepping into a situation.
Lane Kiffin's doesn't.
Lane Kiffin's will. I think this addition's fine. I think he's just going to be another player in the mix. I don't think that this will be a truly dominant addition that I saw some people talking him up to be on Twitter.
If Lane Kiffin goes and gets a running back and receiver, I'm just going to let you know on this show or any show, I'm going to look at him in a different light, man. I just am. Okay.
But like, how good was Zach Evans? Like, Zach Evans was good, but very inconsistent.
No, but
Judkins took over, and Evans was supposed to be the prized player that they went and got.
Judkins was a 3-star.
And Zach Evans was a 5-star, and they went and added him, and Evans didn't really do anything.
That's a little bit different. Zach Evans got hurt, and Zach Evans isn't a scrub. I mean, he's not a scrub, and he didn't go out and necessarily recruit. Like, that's a little bit different, I think. Zach Evans has issues, okay?
Yeah, he had off-the-field issues.
Right, off-the-field issues. I think that's a completely different topic. Just my whole thing is can he miss it? Is Franklin going to be, are you probably right with probably the 800 yards? Yeah. But Joe, do you want Kiffin with another weapon? That comes down to the ultimate thing for me.
But it's not like they went and added Jordan Addison. They added another rotational receiver.
Yeah, but what are we?
It's not like a weapon. It's like a good player you're adding to your.
Yeah, but what are we expecting from Ole Miss? Like,
I'm expecting them to run the ball really well.
Well, are we expecting them to add a player like that? No. For them, he's a good addition.
It's a average addition, a slightly above average addition. My thought is just that on Twitter, I felt as though, and I think you could agree, coming into the second transfer portal window, they needed to add a receiver. And that was one of their weaker position groups, is the receiver position. It just seems as though it was painted that Franklin was going to take this next step because he was stepping into an SEC offense led by Lane Kiffin. I just don't believe that that's the case. I believe he's more going to be an average addition, a fine football player in the SEC, and not a statistically dominant one that was painted as such by some people out there in the college football Twitterverse.
Fair. I think that's fair.
Okay.
But if he gets 800 yards, I think it's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's an accomplishment.
I mean, because Let me think. You know what's interesting? Outside of Addison, has there been a transfer wide receiver that's done a lot of damage?
I'd have to think. On that.
Jameson Williams did some serious shit.
Yeah, okay.
That's
the perfect example. A lot of these kids usually do declare.
Yeah, wide receivers declare early, bro.
They declare very early.
You do know the lowest age range per position in the NFL is? It's running back number 1 and wide receiver number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, very frequently it's underclassmen.
Yeah, because there's more wide receivers and running backs than there are 6'6", 317-pound left tackles.
Yes.
Named Joe Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do when Brian Kelly starts recruiting those type of kids to LSU, who, by the way, just constantly produces Jamar Chases everywhere?
I'd like to. Were you talking about receivers or are you talking about tackles?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, because LSU's already getting those type of receivers and DBs because they're locking the state down, which, by the way, just throwing this out there while we leave here. Did you know the last time that LSU had this many players in state commit to LSU? There was a guy by the name of Nick Saban that did it in 2001. I thought Brian Kelly couldn't recruit. I thought Louisiana and the South was going to be an issue for him.
I've never said that he can't recruit.
Oh.
I've never said that on this program.
Funny what happens when everybody says it's the coach and then he's still out recruiting you.
Again, I've never disputed that statement.
This isn't a shot at you. This is a shot at a guy that has a beard and has a butt chin and wears glasses. I mean, the chances of him blowing his nose and wiping his ass at the same time is 100%. I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that.
Yeah, it was
or forgive.
It's a terrible take. It's a bad take.
It's not about the take. It's about him calling me a clown. I said, Bud, you have no idea. Basically how it started, and paraphrasing. He was like, Bud, you have no idea what you're talking about. 3 coaches and 1 national titles. And he said, look, clown. Well, first off, I'll slap the shit out of anybody that calls me a clown. Just throwing that out there.
Completely unjustified, unwarranted, ridiculous.
A damn beast media says dogs have entered the chat. Good evening, all. Just saw live and jumping in here to check some things out. We'll go back to the beginning of the show. Thank you, damn best media. By the way, dogs, just letting you know, if you want to, we're wrapping it up here. We're talking about Wes Johnson, your new baseball coach on AYS, who left. Hey, let me tell you something, Joe. Georgia's getting a little serious about other sports. How you can't be romantic about other sports, mainly baseball.
It's a first for Georgia because I feel like they
sink in everything else.
Yes.
All right. We're out of here, guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.